Hello, I'm Shiva, producer, musician with an unhealthy habit for hardware. Today we're going to take a look at Arturia's new flagship keyboard, AstroLab, which is a stage piano, all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles machine with software integration that's pretty unique on the market. We're going to take a look at the hardware, the connectivity, the software that comes with it, and we're going to check out a few sounds and see how I can integrate this curious device into my workflow. So enjoy. Yeah, let's start by having a good look at the hardware. This is a very high quality keyboard. The keyboard really tries to strike a balance between usable for organ players, piano players and synth players. It's not too heavy. I really like it. The black keys even have that piano texture, which is a nice touch. On the left hand side you have your usual mod wheel and pitch bend and octave switch. You see there's a nice visual feedback on the mod wheel. This light stripe there, that's a nice touch. Further down the line, we have the arpeggiator section here and the chord section. I'm going to show you later you can create chords to get those nifty Detroit house chords. It's going to help you with that. So as I said, it's going to give you a little demo of each sound. Further down the line, we have this very unique multi-purpose dial, push button, display, bright lit curiosity in the middle. That's really giving you detailed feedback. It even has some haptic feedback. As maybe you can hear this. You can feel the resistance when you switch through your functions, which is really handy when you're on stage and you really need to know what you're doing. This is not going to let you down. Here you have your arrow buttons. Those are really handy for switching through presets. Arturia gives you a cheat sheet for the shift commands. There's many secondary functions that you can access from this shift button. There's two parts. This is like a multi-timbral keyboard that lets you split the keyboard into two parts. It can either be split left-right. You can set the split point yourself. If you don't split it, those parts play on top of each other, which is like you can have some really cool sound combinations going on. It's gonna let you edit that in the Analog Lab software, but more on that later. Here you have like 8 encoder buttons that are going to give you some feedback. As you see, when I'm on part 1, this is gonna be orange. If I'm on part 2, this is going to be green, because you can have different settings for different parts. Really handy. As you see, those buttons have secondary functions. This is the one that's usually set by default, and shift is going to give you a second row of controls. Really cool. There's an effect section that you can dial in the software that you can like switch on and off per part. Really cool. This is going to give you secondary functions as well. As you see, those don't change colors according to the part, but you really get used to the color scheme very quick. Yeah, your master volume is not an encoder. This is a POTI. Yeah, and that's about it. That's the surface, really. As you can see, this is a really no-frills design, but there's still a very surprising amount of tweakability on this thing. AstroLab really feels weighty. This like those wooden end cheeks are a really nice touch. It feels really high quality. Overall, it feels like you really don't want it to fall on your foot. It's really gonna hurt. It's really heavy and sturdy. You can take this on the road, no problem. This is really gonna serve you well. I was a bit skeptical of this display thingy here, because it's kind of sticking out if you're on stage and you're like accidentally knocking this thing. But it's gonna. Sorry Arturia. I'm gonna do the stress test here. Nah, this is just doing some switching. It's really heavy duty. Really sturdy. I think this will survive like 1 million clicks. This you don't need to hit the center of it. You can hit it anywhere and it's gonna react. You can kind of go wherever you need, hit it there, and be on your way. Really handy. I mean, it's very high resolution. That's really nice. It's a really nice touch. You get used to the feedback that it's giving you pretty quick, and it's showing you all the different models and split sounds, and it's going to show you that as well. And it reacts really fast. Now, this is going to give you feedback wherever you are. Down here you have a row of buttons that has two functions really. First, it's gonna let you switch through an assortment of pre-made Arturia sounds. Right out of the box, you can put it on a stand and be right on your way with the sound. So I'm gonna, As you see, there's piano, electric piano, organ, bass, lead, keys, pad, strings, brass, and sequencer sounds. And then there's a curious button called Playlist, which lets you create playlists from presets or from sounds that you created in the AstroLab that we're going to talk about later. Then those functions no longer give you electric piano, and those sounds, but it's going to give you the sounds that you selected. I'll talk about that later. You can't be mistaken, it's going to switch to a light yellow, so there's no way of accidentally hitting the keys and creating havoc on stage. This is, for me, that's a pretty important aspect of those things. In the heat of the moment on stage, I cannot not know what I'm doing. I need to know what I'm doing right away, all the time. I need that feedback. And one thing, as I said, you'll be getting used to pretty quickly is the quality of the display. This is going to give you feedback all the time. Let me show you again. Nice. When I took this out of the box, I was really surprised of the quality. Kind of strikes a nice balance between playability and weight. The keys are not too heavy. I would really also use this as a controller, as my main controller in the studio. This might be the hardware center of your studio. I haven't heard any fan noise from this. I think there's like 4 vents for ventilation here. I really took this one for a spin and I heard nothing. But yeah, you'll get used to the interface and the hardware very quickly. So this thing really comes into its own through the integration with the software that comes with it. This might seem minimalist, but the way this integrates with the AstroLab software is, I've never seen anything like this. But now let's take a look at the back side. Connection-wise, you'll find the power supply. Then there's the connection for connecting it to your computer for editing your sounds by a USB-C. And there's another USB-A connector for storage. You can put like a USB drive right to it and control it via MIDI. So you can use the AstroLab software over USB-C and have it MIDI controlled over USB-A, which is a really nice feature. So you can use it in your studio and you don't need to have AstroLab running on your studio computer while you're recording and sequencing. There's your headphones output, left and right output. Left is mono, as it should be. There is a left and right combo jack, USB and jack input, because you can run anything through it really. You have some vocal effects in this as well. So this is going to give you access to that. There's a gain button for that. Then there's the connection to the outer world, which I find really nice because there's like your usual sustain and expression, and there's 2 auxiliary connections for hooking it up to external sequencers, modular stuff, more expression pedals. You can actually turn all these, all those 2 aux inputs into 2 more expression inputs, which is really handy for controlling all sorts of things through foot pedals. And then there's your usual MIDI in and out. No through, but out can also function as a through jack. One thing that me personally I would have loved to see on this keyboard is the connections printed on the keyboard here. But yeah, maybe I'll just write it on there with a Sharpie, you know, help yourself. So when you buy AstroLab, it comes preloaded with 1,000 presets that you can just play right out of the box. Many presets to choose from, like covering all sorts of styles. Lots of reverb, little reverb, you know. There's so much to discover, and as we say, sounds are songs. You never know what sound triggers what music. There's a lot to unpack here. This is actually the AstroLab in a box. AstroLab is Arturia's streamlined software package. It's not the full-blown synthesizer versions, the full-blown synthesizer emulations, but it's kind of a streamlined version where you just get the necessary parameters to play with. If you plug in AstroLab to your computer and you open Analog Lab, there is a little button that lets you connect your AstroLab to your computer. And now, whatever you do on the hardware will show up on your computer screen. And as I said, you can just be happy playing the keyboard forever. And you can even have your computer hooked up just to get some visual feedback, what the knobs will do, because you get some nice feedback over what all those buttons do. But the real magic happens once you go under the hood. Let me show you what that means. Up here at that, what I think is a little library symbol, you get access to the sounds. If you just open the Analog Lab software, you'll be shown to the bank of sounds that it comes loaded with. As you see, this corresponds with the sounds in your playlist. The real fun begins once you go into the editing page. If you go here, follow me, down to edit preset. Now you have access to the effects of a sound. You have 4 effects, which also show up here on those knobs. The shift button on the hardware lets you access different parameters. You can select all sorts of effects, which is really nice. You can create the effects chain of your dreams. The first 2 slots give you like modulation, distortion, everything that would be like insert effects. And the last 2 slots give you send effects like delay and reverb. Arturia offer a very state-of-the-art synth emulation plug-in bundle, which is called the Analog Collection. And if you happen to own that bundle, it lets you go into the full version of the keyboard. So I'll show you here. So you can control and edit all your sounds from within the software and then save them back in your library. Just store them on the keyboard itself and bring all those very sophisticated sounds on the stage. Another nice feature of the AstroLab and the way it integrates with Analog Lab is that you can create playlists. I will create a playlist here, add playlist, and I call it Shaper Sounds. Nice. Here's my playlist, and now I can say I want a nice pad sound. Pull this down into Shaper Sounds, and it appears in my playlist. Then I want a nice piano sound, something jazzy, cinema layer, that sounds nice. Sweet. I need a nice bass. Cool. One of the really strong points of the AstroLab is that I can now just unplug this from my computer and take my playlist on the road. Let me see if this shows up here. Shiva Sounds, really nice. And now, instead of switching through the categories that are written here, it gives me access to the sounds that I just put into that playlist. So I have 9 sounds per playlist, which really should do any session justice. And that's super cool. One thing that's really handy in the software is that you can just search by instruments. Just imagine you just heard of the infamous Juno 60 sound. You can just search by instrument, which is really nice. Now I have all the Juno 60 sounds available here. And then you have all these categories, which is really cool. So you want some 70s deep analog, and you show the results, and there you have plenty of sounds that you can. That's not the 70s. Really cool. The Analog Lab comes with 7,000 presets. I don't see anyone running out of sounds anytime soon. There's one major drawback that I hope Arturia will address in the near future, which is, imagine I hold my massive synth chord on stage, everybody's going crazy. Woo! I want to switch over to my piano preset and start the next song, and it kills the strings right off. I don't know if I would use AstroLab in that capacity on a stage. unless this is fixed. But yeah, maybe that can be fixed in a software update. Arturia, please. One thing I would really love to see would be a function, because when I am editing a sound, let's say I'm here in my analog lab and I just change a setting on an effect or whatever. Once I go out of the sound again, those changes are lost. I would just love for like a snapshot, like shift, whatever, to save that current state so it will be part of my sound from now on. No going in, saving as a new sound. Some of those sounds are really nice to begin with, but I really like to tweak them a bit and make them my own. Shift plus X, and that's my new sound from then on. Another thing, considering that Arturia is just a giant in software emulation of classic hardware synths, I would love to see a dedicated cut-off resonance knobs on this thing. Or maybe just when I'm in my analog lab, have brightness, timbre, be resonance cut off, so that I can reach for a cut-off knob and a resonance knob to change those things on the fly, because those things are really like essential to me. But I don't really know, because it's not labeled cutoff and resonance. What am I doing here? Who is this for? Just from my own time with the AstroLab, I would say, for me this is mostly a creative tool that I can just bring to sessions. I would totally take this one on the stage. You can play the piano ballad and you can play the massive synth chords just with the push of a button. You really have all the effects and basic parameters available that you would need on the stage. Just creating playlists with sounds that you find in the vast array of presets and just putting them on the buttons here, being able to layer lots of sounds in very short time without looking at a screen. That's really powerful. I hope this gibberish made any sense to you. Thanks for joining in. Shout out to my good friend Joachim, who did the proper keyboard playing for us. It was funny to see him react to the sound. He never touched the AstroLab before. He was just going through the sounds and just reacting to what presets he found, and I think he did a pretty good job. Thanks for joining in. See you next time. This was fun. Au revoir.